Another thing I wanted to talk to you about today is how women should rotate supplements for optimal wellness. Do you take the same supplement day in and day out? It's time to rethink that routine. What if I told you that long term use could be doing more harm than good? I'll share some of the hidden dangers of what's known as supplement stagnation. Your health journey deserves an upgrade. And if you're new here, I'm Dr. Gala Gorman, a licensed acupuncturist, naturopath, and author of What's Your Kryptonite? I wrote the book to help women understand the effects of chronic stress that's turned toxic. In the book, I share the MOLT method I developed to make it easy to shed stress along with the accumulated toxicity, just like any other creature in nature that's outgrown its trappings, so that you can cruise through midlife and beyond symptom free, so that you can put an end to health issues like chronic fatigue, insomnia, mood swings, and even weight gain. Well, do you take the same supplement day in and day out? It's time to rethink that routine. What if I told you that long term use could be doing more harm than good? I'll share some of the hidden dangers of what's known as supplement stagnation. That's probably a new term for you. Your health journey deserves an upgrade. So, we're going to talk here about rotating supplements for a few minutes. And if you've heard me talk about digestive rest, about not taking a supplement long term, this will kind of help to put some of those pieces together, like what you really should do instead. So, the first thing I wanted to really point out is that the main reason why we don't take supplements long term, or really supplements randomly, is that they're just creating a toxic buildup. So I was at a conference not that long ago, and the conference was actually put on by a supplement manufacturer. And these guys are really producing high quality stuff. It was really attention to quality and getting the job done. And one of the owners and developers of the company, like, our job is to develop supplements that work and address the problems so that you don't have to take them long term. What a breath of fresh air, right? Like, you don't want to have to be taking something long term. You want to be able to, take it for a few weeks, and then move on to something else, and whatever honestly needs to be addressed. And so the when I was originally introduced to these guys, I was listening to some of their educational material, and they talked about Hana Kroger. And when they mentioned Hana, I knew that they were my peeps because I had gone to a workshop with Hana Kroger, gosh, at least 40 years ago now, probably. And she was a German healer, essentially, and was onto some of these issues that have now really proliferated, but she knew they were issues, 40, 50 years ago. And so some of the things that she recommends and suggests have been incorporated by these guys into their products. But Hana really talks about energetic disturbance, and in particular with electromagnetic frequencies. And so this is another thing that is just really hard sometimes for people to get their head around. Electromagnetic frequencies literally are everywhere. And so how are you going to mitigate that? It is definitely challenging, but it's something that absolutely must be done if you want to maintain your overall health and well-being. You really need to be identifying the sources of these unhealthy electromagnetic frequencies, and work to minimize their impact on you and how your internal signaling and all the internal communication happens. if you are not on top of this, you end up with cell signaling that gets off, and this is essentially the start of disease. So it's something that just can't be completely ignored, even though I realize that a topic that's hard to kind of get your head around. The other thing too is that when you're detoxing, you want to make sure that you are doing a targeted detox. So the way I do that is I identify with my process what actually has sort of escalated to the point where it's created a problem. And once you identify where the problem really is, then you create a detox protocol that addresses that type of toxicity. That could be bacterial overgrowth, that could be heavy metals, that could be parasites, that could be viral, mycotoxins, mycoplasma, even emotional toxicity. So it's really important that you identify what's really going on with you, what's really causing that's your primary cause of the energetic disturbance. You address that directly. So that's really important as well. And then there's this issue of therapeutic dose. So when I talk about taking a supplement short term, I'm talking about typically around 3 weeks, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, but typically it's around 3 weeks. And I was first introduced to this approach by a doctor named Fred Stoner. He's a chiropractor and had developed quite a following because his approach really worked. But he would use a different form of testing. He used muscle testing. I use a more like technology assisted form of muscle testing to evaluate the situation for the people that I work with. But essentially, what he would do is he would identify what your body was deficient in or what needed to be addressed, and then what supplement to address it with, and what dose to use to actually get enough into your system that your body could kind of jumpstart in the process. And so we refer to this as a therapeutic dose. A therapeutic dose tends to be 2 to 3, maybe even more times the standard dose. And we take it long enough to jumpstart our body, remind our body what it's designed to do naturally, maybe like really shore up a deficiency, and then we don't need to take it any longer. And so I was really introduced to that working with Dr. Stoner, and have really applied that now in my work. He was helping me at the time deal with a case of delayed whiplash. I had been in a car accident and felt fortunate to be alive. The accident was a rollover accident, and it was really, my vehicle was totaled and was definitely something that if you looked at the vehicle, we were in the middle of the highway, you would think, I can't believe people walked away from this mess. But I really had a couple of bruises. I went snow skiing the next day. And so really, I kind of thought I got away with it. But a few months later, my neck really started to lock up, and I have scoliosis in my mid-thoracic area of my back. And so, that tends to be a weak area for me. So it really had to be addressed. And I ended up going to Dr. Stoner, and he did not just address that. He addressed a lot of these other issues that really this has been incorporated into my work now, decades later, because of how effective it is to take this really comprehensive approach. The other thing I will say is that Dr. Stoner would not treat you unless you had consumed some protein. And at the time, I was not very good about consuming protein. And so he would use spirulina. If you came into his office and had not had any protein, you would have to take a dose of spirulina before he would even treat you so that your structure was nourished essentially. And so that's something for anybody who's a vegan, or if you don't get enough meat, you can supplement with a high quality spirulina supplement, and that can also just sort of help to enhance your diet, which is essentially what we're focusing on here in this whole episode. So next we are going to talk about vitamins A, D, E, and K. And these vitamins are critical for your health, but it's also really important that you not take these vitamins long term or megadose them, because they are fat soluble. They will build up toxicity in your body. And what does that look like? That looks like a toxic liver. And I can pretty much guarantee you that if you have health issues, your liver is already somewhat toxic. So the last thing you need to be doing is adding more toxicity to an already toxic liver. So absolutely best thing you can do is get out in the sun and get your vitamin D from the sun. And then, we've talked here about using multivitamins and starting obviously with as high a quality diet as we can get to, but we know that that's really challenging even if you eat the highest quality food. So if you turn to a multivitamin, then you know that's kind of like plugging some of those gaps and trying to not overdose any one thing. Also, if you consume your multivitamin with your meal, then it will be digested and easy. It'll be easier for your body to kind of eliminate in its normal process of elimination what you did not need. In my next video, I'll show you how to manage the toxic stress that's sabotaging your efforts. You can eliminate symptoms naturally without medication, crazy diets, intense exercise, or any other unsustainable lifestyle hack.